Just a few hours after the ceasefire agreement was announced, men in northern Gaza were back digging through the rubble for the dead and wounded after an Israeli strike. The ceasefire is not due to start until Sunday. Then they heard a small voice. He was alive. Strong enough to wave for help. His name is Asad Fadl Khalifa. His parents, sister, aunt and uncle, we're told, were killed in the strike. He's 3 years old. His mouth was full of gravel and dust. He was trying to pull it out himself.
Phase 1 will last 6 weeks. It includes a full and complete ceasefire, withdrawal of Israeli forces from all the populated areas of Gaza, and the release of a number of hostages held by Hamas, including women and elderly and the wounded.
Israel and Hamas have finally agreed to a ceasefire deal after months of delicate negotiations. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has tonight thanked President Biden and Donald Trump for helping secure the deal. With just days to go before he leaves office, President Biden tonight gave details of the ceasefire, which begins on Sunday.
In exchange, Israel released hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. And during Phase 1, the Palestinians can also return to their neighborhoods.
Peace is difficult because you need to go back to the religion and doctrine. But we would love for the bombing to stop and for them to leave Gaza and for the prisoners to get free and for everyone to go back to their homes and family because they suffered a lot in this war.
It affected us a lot here, both financially and mentally. We, especially women, are affected by what we are seeing, the children who are dying. We hope we could help, but we can only pray.
For me, today is a very difficult day. What government, what prime minister with common sense will give back the area from where thousands of Gaza people attacked us, conquered our parts of our country? This is treachery.
Help is coming. Down along the valley, the biggest aid convoy since the war began. Solidarity from the Kingdom of Jordan. In 2 deliveries, 120 trucks on the road to Gaza, from a country that is home to many Palestinians. We're carrying aid like food and medication for our brothers in Gaza, says Mustafa Al-Qadri. This is a good deed. We're happy to be part of this operation.
In all the areas of Gaza.
So there are 3 phases to this deal. 33 hostages will be released during the first 6 weeks, among them 2 Americans. Humanitarian aid will go in. Phase 2 will be negotiations for a permanent end to the war. Hostages and prisoners will continue to be released. Once that's done, Phase 3 will see all the rest of the hostages released, as well as the remains of those who have died. And finally, a permanent ceasefire agreed.
They're waiting for today's meagre charity. Little wonder that tired tempers fray when you've lived this struggle every day. The aid from Jordan is the tiniest fraction of what's needed here.
I used to shop and go to school, and my mom used to cook for me, and when I got back, she would tell me to come eat. I dream every day about the ceasefire. I want to go home and for my father to return to us.
I never thought I'd be fed by a charity. This is so unfair. If I don't get meals from here, I don't eat. So I keep coming. My life as a young girl, dreaming of studying at a university or school, playing and having fun, has been reduced to accepting handouts.
In the streets of Khan Yunis in Gaza, overwhelming relief that they are alive, and hope too that the nightmare of this war might be over.
When they announced that there is a ceasefire, we felt happy and relieved. The pain has disappeared a bit, even though the pain is still present, but hopefully joy will overcome the pain. Let our prisoners get freed and for the injured to get treated. People are exhausted.
Some weapons, some defiance were on show, but Hamas is a shadow of what it was when it attacked Israel on the 7th of October 2023. And apart from survival, there isn't much to celebrate for Palestinians in Gaza. Israel has killed almost 50,000 people at least. The territory is in ruins, and well over 2 million have been forced out of their homes. Well, I think the people in Gaza certainly hope that it will, after the severity of the bombing that they've endured since the announcement came. I think one question that has to be asked is the degree to which the Israelis had a strong military rationale for that level of bombing and killing, or whether it was more about sending a political message to those right-wingers in Israel who feel that they are effectively surrendering rather than sealing the victory that they want over Hamas. As for the wider ceasefire, yeah, I think that there's every indication that it will be ratified and it will start. But the important thing to remember about it is it's a ceasefire of phases. And in Tel Aviv, it is also a bittersweet moment for the families and supporters of Israeli hostages, living and dead. 33 women, older men, and the sick and wounded are due for release in the next 6 weeks, in return for hundreds of Palestinian detainees and prisoners. But the future of the rest of the hostages depends on more negotiations.
And we really hope that no one will mess it up, not in our side, not in their side. And really wait for this very, very needed thing to happen, for the war to stop, for the hostages to come home.
Israel's president said the ceasefire was right, important, and necessary.
There is no greater moral, human, Jewish or Israeli obligation than to bring our sons and daughters back to us, whether to recover at home or to be laid to rest.
The war started on the 7th of October 2023 with a devastating series of surprise attacks by Hamas. It was one of the worst intelligence and security failures in Israel's history. A painful inquiry into who missed the signs it was coming, starting with the Prime Minister, lies ahead. Israel responded by hammering Gaza and its people from then until today. It insists it respects the laws of war. It says Hamas caused so many civilian casualties, wounded and dead, by using them as human shields. But Israel's Prime Minister and former Defense Minister face arrest warrants for war crimes, and the International Court of Justice is investigating a case accusing Israel of genocide.
But as I prepare to leave office, our friends are strong, our enemies are weak, and there's genuine opportunities for a new future. In Lebanon, there's an opportunity for a future, free from the grip of Hezbollah. In Syria, a future free from the tyranny of Assad. And for the Palestinian people, a credible pathway to a state of their own. Thank you.
Brooks, credit for this, Mr. President, you or Trump?
Is that a joke? Oh, thank you.
But Donald Trump's pressure on Israel, as well as Hamas, to seal the deal before his return to the White House next week might have made a decisive difference.
The ceasefire begins on Sunday, the day before the inauguration of Donald Trump. In fact, he was the first to speak publicly about the deal before it had been confirmed by Qatar's Prime Minister, saying the hostages would be released soon.
Joe Biden says that his team of negotiators and diplomats who've been so deeply involved in these talks for months have been working closely and coordinating with Donald Trump's Middle East envoy and his team so that they are all across all of the details. They all know what's happening, because nobody wants this handover of power here in America to in any way derail the implementation of this agreement.
After the public anger and the protests, in Tel Aviv tonight, a private shared relief. Too soon for celebrations. This deal too partial, too long coming to spark an explosion of joy. For 15 months, demonstrators here demanded the hostages' release. The names of Israel's missing, repeated like a mantra, their faces papering Israel's walls. All living civilian women and children are due to be released over the next 6 weeks, along with elderly men and the sick. For now, soldiers and younger men will remain behind.
You know, it's part of them, not all of them. And for us, it's only the beginning. We want them all here, okay? Because it's not end and it's not enough if just some of them will come.
251 hostages were taken to Gaza by Hamas gunmen during the 7th of October attacks. Partygoers at a music festival, families asleep in their homes. And soldiers like Nimrod Cohen, abducted with his tank unit near the Nahal Oz military base. He was 19 years old. Since then, his father Yehuda has been campaigning for his release. He believes that Nimrod, a young male soldier, will be one of the last to be freed.
I'm done with emotion. That was the first month, the second month. I don't have time for emotion. I'm full job in fighting. I can be the father of Nimrod once Nimrod is back here.
Yehuda watched as more than 100 hostages were freed in an earlier 9-day truce. That was over a year ago. Since then, for many hostage families, hope has been frozen. Now, for some, it's starting to thaw.
They're used to false rumours. Hope has been a lost language in this war. But tonight, perhaps an end to fear, exhaustion, degradation. They have suffered while the talk has gone on and on. Mahmoud al-Dibes and his family have evacuated 9 times. His children scavenge for anything that could be sold to buy food. And they suffer for it. Skin diseases, hepatitis. The smell is suffocating, he says, and the dogs are everywhere. There's nowhere to go to the bathroom. So at night, my family and I went together to relieve ourselves, only to be attacked by dogs that tried to bite us.
She was the flower of our neighborhood. She used to walk, play, and was just like any other child.
3 months into the war, Hannah became ill with cancer of the eye. Now in constant agony, she can no longer see. With a ceasefire, her mother hopes Israel will allow Hannah's evacuation from Gaza.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. I'm so worried about her, and I feel so bad for her. I want to do whatever I can to help her, and I don't want to be helpless.
After the ceasefire, I want to give my children the best life. I want them to get over the fear we lived. My children are really scared. The terror has settled in their hearts.
The scale of rebuilding ahead is immense, of a lost world, of broken lives.
After more than 15 months of fighting, what is the current state of Gaza?
Around 1,200 people were killed, 250 others were taken hostage. But the impact of 15 months of war in Gaza has been huge. Whole neighbourhoods have been flattened by Israeli strikes during the conflict. Let's talk firstly about the human cost of the war in Gaza. This is the death toll provided by the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza. 46,707 people killed. Ministry officials also say that this is the number of people injured, more than 110,000. Israel says it's killed 17,000 fighters and that Hamas's figures can't be trusted. But the death toll is high, and some think that this figure is an underestimate. This is before the war, and this is a verified image of the exact same scene now. You can see almost everything here has been destroyed. This map is an estimate of how damage in Gaza has progressed over time. You can see all these red dots showing damaged or destroyed buildings. The academic experts who've been compiling this said that as of October, just under 60% of all buildings in Gaza had been damaged or destroyed. The war has also had a considerable impact on the movement of people. The UN estimates that 90% of Gazans have been internally displaced. That's 1.9 million people. Huge numbers of Gazans have been subject to Israeli evacuation orders in the last 15 months. Look at these areas in red there. Finally, a few figures highlighting the humanitarian challenge ahead. The UN projects that 91% of people are facing acute food insecurity. Almost 1.9 million people, it says, are in need of emergency shelter, and just 50% of hospitals are still partially functioning. Journalists don't have free access to Gaza, so building a complete picture is difficult, but there are some considerable challenges now that that ceasefire has been agreed.